very little is actually talked about the golf shot, which is dangerous. Because I've seen lots of guys who've got great swings, really nice looking golf swings, but they can't play. They cannot get the ball around the golf course. And yet there's the other guy who's got the half set and he's got, battered old driver and irons that have been in his bag for 15 years and a putter that's been there for 30 years. And he can play. Never ever play anyone for money who's got an old battered putter that they've had in their bag for 30 years, because it's a reason it stayed in the bag for 30 years.
Golf Smarter, number 713. is brought to you by Autoslash.com, the completely free service that saves users up to 30% on car rentals. Whether you're renting a car for business, pleasure, or a golf trip, make sure you let Autoslash know the car you've reserved, and they'll find you a lower rate for free. Check it out now at Autoslash.com. If you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. The Lost Art of Playing Golf with co-author Gary Nicol.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome back to the Golf Smarter podcast, Gary.
Great to be with you again, Fred.
It was a wonderful time last time, and I got some great feedback from our conversations.
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, always good to hear that.
Always good to hear that. Any feedback is great feedback, whether it's bad or good. That means people are listening. So
that's for sure.
Just to remind anybody, the last time you were on was episode 697, I think, sometime in July of 2019, July 23rd is when it was published. And it was on The Lost Art of Putting, your first book.
Yes.
And now you guys have come out, and we talked about this. You've come out with a new book called The Lost Art of Golf.
Of Playing Golf. Lost Art of Playing Golf. Of
Playing Golf. Thank you very much. And I'll make that note right here. Lost Art of Playing Golf.
Yes.
I need to start with the foreword. I actually want that. I want you to give me his information so I can get him on the show too. Tell me a little bit about that forward. Tell me everyone.
Yeah, it was an interesting story how that came about. Karl, who is the co-author obviously of both books with me, was out doing some seminars in China earlier in the year, and he bumped into a guy called Rudy Durant, who was, of course, Tiger Woods' first ever golf coach. So they got chatting and they went out for dinner and they talked about various things, and Karl explained that we were writing this second book. He'd given him a copy of The Lost Art of Putting, which he really liked. And Karl just thought, you know what, we might never get this chance again to ask Rudy Durant to help us out with the book. So he asked if Rudy would write the foreword, and he said, yeah, sure, absolutely. More than happy to. So yeah, it's a great addition for us. It's a great addition to just start the book, basically.
I know when my wife and I are watching a TV program or a series that we haven't watched before, and we'll watch the first couple minutes and look at each other and go, "You in?"
Yeah.
And it's like, "Oh yeah, I'm so in."
Okay, got you.
Right. I read the first 3 paragraphs of the forward, and I'm like, "I am so in."
Yeah.
It's a captivating and wonderful story, and again, I hope we can find a way to get him on the show as well. But let's talk about your book. Why is that a good lead-in for this book? Well, or why don't you give us brief what he said first? And then,
basically, he talked about when Tiger's mother brought him along to his academy and asked if he would, he'd done a bit of research. Sure, Tiger's parents had done a bit of research about who they could take their kid to help out. And Rudy's name kept cropping up, apparently. So his mother, Tina, took him along one day, introduced him, and they got chatting about this, that, and the next thing, and basically went across the range. And Rudy said, right, okay, let me a couple of shots, please, Tiger. Just show me what you can do.
How old was Tiger at the time?
It's 4.5, something like that.
so anybody that comes out with their kid, 4-year-old going, I want you to watch this kid, right?
Yeah, exactly. So they went onto the range and Rudy said Tiger hit these beautiful little, he had a kind of I think it was a 2.5 wood, and he hit these beautiful little baby draws, teed up, right down the fairway, nice soft draw. They only went about 50, 60 yards. But he said they were just perfect golf shots in miniature. And he thought, wow, this is a little bit special. This is a pretty unique. This is not something you see on a daily basis. Then they went across the chipping green, And he said to Tiger, okay, can you show me how to, just play a couple of chip shots for me? And he said, do you want them high and stopping quickly, or do you want them going in low and running out a little bit?
That's what Tiger asked.
That's what Tiger said, yeah, at 4.5.
At 4.5.
Yeah, I really thought, wow, this kid's just like nothing he's ever seen or heard before. And he thought, yeah, you are more than welcome to come anytime you like. So basically, he realised straight away that Tiger was very much a natural golfer, if you like, and he really got what golf was all about at the age of 4.5, which is pretty freaky, really.
Savant.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, pretty odd, pretty unique. And Fred said Rudy said he was completely captivated, Fred, just by watching this kid creating these shots. And he didn't think about his golf swing. He said all the time he worked with him, he didn't really think about his golf swing. He didn't talk about his golf swing. It was all about creating shots. So, now, and that was very much the premise of our book. So exactly. He was very much in tune with the way we look at the game.
Yeah.
Because I think we've seen so many guys, real good players, tour standard players, guys who've won tournaments, guys who've achieved great things in the game, go down a super technical route. We've all done it. Anyone who's ever played the game has done it. In a bid to get better, we think, right, we need more information, we need more knowledge, we need to try different things, we need to really work on our technique. And while it may look good on the surface, if you dig a little deeper, there's no real context to the swing, because they're not talking about shots and they're talking about swings all the time. It's never really going to work. When you go to the range, you'll see most people, they stand there, they're working endlessly on their golf swings. And they wonder what, they can't figure out, well, one goes left, one goes right. Think about it sensibly, if you're working on your golf swing, you're going to end up with a shot or poor versions of your intended shot. But if you go to the range and actually work on creating different shots, high fades, low draws, straight shots, high shots, low shots, whatever, which you've got to do in the golf course, then our belief is, and this is not just something we've dreamt up sitting over a cup of tea, we've seen it in action with all levels of golfers. When you give them a very clear task, then that task creates a technique. But the coaching culture and the learning culture, the golf industry, basically has had us believe for too long that if we make a good swing, we'll hit a good shot. That'll let you down. It let me down. It's let hundreds of thousands of golfers down over the years. And I think when you're thinking about your golf swing, you become so disconnected from the task, so disconnected from the shot, that you get so wrapped up in the technicalities of it, you actually forget about what you're doing with the golf ball. I think, if you look at most instructional books, magazine articles, YouTube videos, whatever they are, they're very much about what you need to do, what the club needs to do, but there's very little attention paid to what the ball needs to do. Now, the last time I looked, that's all that really mattered, was what we do with the ball. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's 1,000 ways to do it, 100,000 ways to do it.
On every hole.
On every hole, exactly. That's what the golf course demands, that you create different shots at different times. Mm-hmm. So unless you train like that, then, if you're just working on your golf swing, then you get out in the golf course and you've got to bend one round a tree, or you've got to hit one under a branch or over a branch or whatever it is. Don't be surprised if you can't do that if you've never trained for it.
Right.
So it's just, you become so disconnected from the task when you're thinking about your technique all the time. But once you get into the thought process or the mindset of actually creating shots, it's actually a lot of fun as well. I think sometimes, we ask everyone, why do you play golf? And everyone says, well, I enjoy it. I like the challenge. It's good fun. I like being outdoors. I love the camaraderie. I love being out with my friends. I love the social aspect of it. I love the physical challenge. I love the mental challenge. And then they hit one bad shot that goes 20 yards right into the trees, and they lose sight of all these reasons that they play golf for in the first place. And it becomes no fun whatsoever. Right. And then we've heard this from 1,000 different people. When their game starts to go off a little bit, they just go so deep into the technical aspect of it, and they fall down this rabbit hole, and they're trying to perfect their swings, which is, I don't know, what's a perfect swing look like? Ask 10 guys, ask 10,000 people, you get 10,000 different answers. So we would say, rather than ask what's wrong with my swing, what is wrong with my shots? So if you ask someone what's wrong with your swing, you'll get an opinion. But if you ask someone what's wrong with my shots, you can come up with some facts. It was a little bit right. It went a bit too high. It finished 10 yards left. It went too far. These are facts. And these are things we can actually address and change. But golf swings, you just go around in ever-decreasing circles trying to... Who's ever mastered their golf swing?
I've done over 700 episodes of people telling me all the different ways they have a golf swing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But can you master creating shots? Absolutely. And who cares what the swing looks like? There's not a bit on the scorecard that asks... Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. I think probably more so now than ever. You see some of these young kids coming through, Wolf and Hovland, these guys. You perhaps wouldn't see their golf swings in textbooks, but you'll see their names at the top of leaderboards. So that's all that really matters, is that these guys have figured out their way of getting the job done, not the way. And that's something we're really encouraging everyone to do, is to try and find your way of doing it, as all the best players in the history of the game have always done.
Gary, I'm going to take a quick time out right now just to let everybody know that this episode of the Golf Smarter podcast is brought to you by Autoslash.com, the rental car booking hack that will be your new best friend. I mean, isn't that what friends do? Help you when you're not watching? I hope so. Now, I've been talking about Autoslash for a while, how they can save you money, an average of 30% for most users, on your next car rental. But what you don't know is that the engineers at Autoslash are continuing to make the service more robust, yet simpler, broader in scope, yet fine-tuned to your needs. In my conversation with CEO Jonathan Weinberg, he was cluing me in to the new features they're developing to make Autoslash more appealing to all of us.
One thing that's nice is that we now show the shuttle information for the rental location. So, for example, if you're flying into Vegas, where I know that there are a fair amount of good courses, you really want to know which rental car companies are located at the airport versus which ones will require a shuttle ride off-site. So we've got that information that's showed on our offers page right now. We also show when the additional driver is included on the rental. That's a relatively recent enhancement. So if you're traveling with your buddies and you want to know where and when you'll have to pay an additional fee for someone else to drive the car, we just started displaying that as well.
That's Autoslash.com, Autoslash, Autoslash.com. Interestingly, I recently was playing with my son, he's not great at scoring yet. He's got I like his swing. But I said to him, and I was surprised to hear myself say this, which was, you're going to you will be able to beat me in no time, because he struggles to do that right now. I said, as soon as you learn how to manage the course, how to manage your game around the course. I said, you have a great swing. You just hit the ball every time. You don't think about what you're doing. And he's like, yeah, sure. That's what I've heard. And it's interesting how I'm starting to understand, after all these years and all these conversations, I'm starting to understand what it takes to manage your game. It seems to me that people who struggle to break 90 are just focused on trying to hit the ball. Yes. Just, the thing about consistency.
Yeah.
Right? And those who can break 80 are in the category of what you're talking about, who have more of a game, more management skills, and understand, I need to go and practice this type of shot.
Exactly. I need to work on this type of shot, not this kind of swing. You're absolutely spot on. And the guys who are struggling to break 90, if their intention is to hit the ball, they will probably manage that, but they won't really have any control over where it's going, because they don't probably have a very clear intention of what they want that shot to do. So unless you have a very clear intention, then how can you say it was a good shot or a bad shot if you weren't clear what you wanted to do in the first place? So as you say, most people are trying to hit the ball, and they will achieve that. I remember once listening to Butch Harmon, and someone was asking a question about, when I go to the range, should I should have a specific target in mind. And he said, well, yeah, of course, because if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. Which I thought, yeah, there's a lot
the
of
name
wisdom
of this
in that.
show. We're going to steal that line by, I know it's Harmon's, but where that just came the name of the show.
I've stolen it already, so there's a cue for stealing his lines.
Say it again. I'm going to write it down. If you
aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
So
that is...
unless your swing has a context, i.e., a shot, it's just you're just swinging a golf club around and through air.
Mm-hmm.
So every shot is different. It happens at a different moment in time. Yet when we see guys in the range, they're standing there with their 7-iron, they hit 30, 40, 50 balls with a 7-iron to the same target. And you think, what are you doing? If you've got to hit 37 irons in a row on the golf course, you're in serious trouble because the first 29 have gone OB or something. If you've got to hit a 30th one. So, just try and and it's dull, it's boring. I mean, practice on the driving range can be pretty monotonous and pretty dull and pretty boring and not very engaging. But if your intention when you go to the range or out the golf course is to create a whole bunch of different shots, all of a sudden you can kind of reconnect and re-engage with the game that we all fell in love with when we first started playing. And it's a whole different mindset, a whole different way of looking at it. It's, again, it's basically comes back to the fun factor and enjoyment of the game. Because, when you've got to hook one round a tree or slice one round a tree or do whatever you've got to do. And isn't it amazing how we can pull these shots off? But yet the kind of straightforward 8-iron to the middle of the green is a bit of a challenge sometimes. But when we've got to hook it around a tree or hit it high or low or whatever you've got to do, all of a sudden you become totally unaware of your technique and very much absorbed and engrossed in the creation of that shot. And for me, that's a lot more fun. That's how we played as kids.
Yeah. Well, luckily, this isn't I'm not doing a book report here, so I don't have to tell you my thoughts on what I read in the book, but I can ask you questions about specific areas.
Please do.
And the one chapter that really kind of jumped out to me that I really wanted to ask you about was, and there's a couple of them, does the swing create the shot or vice versa? Would you tap into that a bit?
Well, in the putting book, we asked a very similar question: does the stroke create the putt, or does the putt create the stroke? And everyone would say, well, initially, you can't actually hit a putt without a stroke. But what comes first, your intention for the putt or the shot? So again, once you have a very clear intention for what you want the ball to do, then the swing comes into it. And if you want to hit a high fade and a low draw, are they going to be the same swing? They can't be. They can't possibly be, because the path's going to be different. The relationship of face to path is going to be different. The way you set up to it is going to be slightly different. I'm not saying they're massively, massively different swings, but they are different. You just need to look at, TrackMan data to show you where the path is and the face is for a draw relative to a fade, where the face and path are going to be. So, the shot comes first, so therefore the shot has to create the swing. No question. But again, traditionally, historically, we've all been led to swing this way, swing that way, because that's, and I remember this as a kid, being told by a coach that I should be swinging this way, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, this position, the next position. And I asked him why, and he said, because that's what you're supposed to do. I wasn't really satisfied with that answer. It didn't really make a lot of sense. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I did think, could you be a bit more vague about that? I remember as a kid, my late father was a golf journalist, a golf writer, and he took me to tournaments when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. And, I was I was dispatched down to driving range. Go and watch these guys hit balls in the range. And I don't actually remember saying this, but Dad told me numerous times years later. He said, when you came back, you asked me a very, very good question that I hadn't really thought about before. And I said, oh, yeah, what was that? He said, well, all these guys are on the range there, and they're hitting the same kind of shot, pretty much the same shot, but they've all got very different swings. So why am I being told to swing it a certain way? And I think his response was, "Yeah, well, you weren't supposed to notice that.
You're too observant as a child.
Yeah, exactly. You precocious child, you." So, and I think that's what kind of piqued my interest in the kind of technical side of golf initially, was thinking, so how come this guy swing it so different? This guy's 6'3", this guy's 5'7", and they're both hitting the same shot, round about the same distance, direction, height, flight trajectory, with very different techniques. I mean, how can that be? Well, perhaps they weren't really thinking about their swings, they were thinking more about their shots. And that's the golf course demands that you create a whole load of different shots at different times, in different conditions. Downhill lies, uphill lies, side hill lies, into the wind, crosswind, right to left wind, all sorts of different things. But if you're only working on your golf swing, you're not really preparing for how you're going to play golf and what you're going to be faced with on the golf course. Does that help clear things up a little?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how does golf course architecture fly into all of this? Why do we have to pay attention to the golf course as well as what our shot making?
I'm actually in the process of reading a fantastic book called The Spirit of St Andrews, written by Dr. Alistair Mackenzie, who designed Cypress Point, co-designed Augusta National with Bobby Jones, Royal Melbourne, some of the great golf courses around the world. And he talks about, if you can get into the mind of the golf course designer, then you're halfway there. Because, we talk about in the book that if we ask any golfer we're working with, who's your opponent? They would say, the smart guys would think, well, it's me, I'm my opponent. And then they think, well, no, actually, maybe I'm not. The golf course is my opponent. And they're nearly there. We can say, okay, you're getting warm. You're not quite there, but you're getting warm here. Think about it. The golf course designer is your opponent. What is a golf course designer trying to get me to do here? Clever design will have you think you can cut off a corner, chew off a bit of the corner to take the short route. Now, perhaps you can, but there's a risk and reward there. If it doesn't come off, you're going to get punished. So what is a golf course designer trying to get me to do here? Should I be playing up the right-hand side to get the best angle into the green? Or can I cut that corner, just try and maybe bite 30 yards off and go in with a much shorter iron shot? Well, you might be able to do that, but if it doesn't come off, you're going to end up in thick rough or in a bunker or behind a tree, whatever it is. So once you get inside the head of the golf course designer, then you can really start to pick the golf course apart and really start to formulate a plan as to how you're going to work your way around the golf course, as your son will soon learn to do.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm sure he will.
I think some people never learn it. I think that there are golfers out there that never learn it because they're so focused on trying to make contact with the ball.
Yeah. But the golf course is giving you clues all the time. Go here, go there, don't go here, don't go there.
Right.
One of the things that we discovered, and we've since used quite a lot with a number of players, is that Jack Nicklaus always walked the golf course backwards. He started in the 18th green and looked at the golf hole in reverse, if you like, and walked the golf course backwards. And I did this with a couple of people. In fact, I took one of the guys that Karl and I work with, a guy called Barry Hobson, who's a very, very good Irish golfer, a senior internationalist. He was playing the British seniors at North Berwick, which, of course, I played an awful lot as a kid. And we did this one day, and we walked the golf course backwards, and we stopped at the back of every green, and we looked. And you know what? I must have been around that golf course, I don't know how many times in my life. But one of the main outstanding features that I'd never really picked up on before was just how big the greens are. But I'd never really picked up on that. But it wasn't until we stood at the back of every green and looked back down the hole from green to tee, the fairways are actually pretty wide. The golf course designer may have created this illusion that it's quite a narrow fairway, but once you get back at the green and look the other way, the fairways are like 30, 35 yards wide. There's more than enough room for a golf ball in there, you would think. But when you're standing on the tee, you would hope, yeah, exactly. Sometimes when you're standing on a tee, especially if it's a kind of narrow tee box, in your mind, you project that narrow avenue down the fairway. But once you get down there, and again, you can figure out, okay, so if the flag's on the right-hand side of the green, I can go quite a long way left here to get a really good angle. And I don't think golfers play like that anymore. I mean, I take people out on the golf course and playing lessons, and regardless of where they are on the golf course, regardless of whether it's a straight hole, a dogleg left to right, right to left, they aim at the flag all the time. I mean, from the tee, from the fairway, from a bunker, from behind trees, they always aim at the flag. The flag's very hypnotic. But it's not always the best shot to go at the flag. You run the risk of short-siding yourself or doing whatever. Golfers tend not to think too much about how they're going to pick that golf course apart, largely because they're thinking way too much about their technique and their backswing and creating more lag in the downswing and making their hips turn faster and all these kind of things. And they become totally oblivious to their surroundings, which is crazy, really. And I think once you really get into the mindset where you think, right, okay, what is the golf course designer asking? What questions is he asking of me? Is he asking me interesting questions? And yeah, a good golf course designer will ask some really interesting questions, and it gets you to think. And when you become, again, engrossed in the task of creating the shot, all of a sudden, you don't really worry about where the golf club is in your backswing. You don't worry if that right elbow's tucked in or flying a little bit or whatever, because that's not helpful. You soon figure out that what is helpful is where I'm going to hit my ball rather than how I'm going to hit my ball. And the more I read about golf course design and golf course architecture, I think it's going to make golf a lot easier to play for me. No question. And I think that everyone can learn a whole lot just by paying a bit more attention to what the golf course is actually asking of you. I mean, most people play the same course week in, week out, and they don't really notice what's going on. They've got no clue about what the golf course or why the golf course was designed the way it was. But I think once you understand why a certain hole was designed a certain way, you can really start to make some headway.
Absolutely. It's so interesting because I think that I've learned more about playing golf by having conversations with golf course architects than I have with instructors.
There you go.
It's very interesting. This is what you just talked about. I think we need to absorb that for just a moment. So let's take a time out and we'll be back right after this. Gary, tell me try this again. Where does artistry fall in golf? Where do you recognize artistry?
In creating different shots, basically. I mean, I was very fortunate enough to grow up watching, for me, golf's greatest artist, or certainly one of the greatest artists, Seve Ballesteros. I watched him up close a number of times. I've stood at 6 feet away and watched him on the range. I've watched him on the golf course. And again, my first introduction was Seve. I was a 10, 11-year-old kid, and he was playing in the Open at Muirfield, which is not far from my home here in Edinburgh. And my dad, again, had taken me down to watch him, to meet him and introduce me to him. And I remember just watching this guy. I was mesmerized at what he was doing with the golf ball. I knew that you needed to have a golf swing to hit a golf shot, but I had no idea this guy was just hitting all sorts of different shots. Everyone else on the range, they were kind of going through, 6 balls of the sand iron, 10 balls of the pitching wedge, then a 9 iron, then an 8 iron, then a 7 iron, all the way through the bag. But Seve wasn't doing that. He was mixing it up. He'd hit a 3-wood, then he'd hit a 6 iron, then he'd hit a driver, then he'd hit a couple of wedges. And I thought, I didn't realise at the time what he was doing, but basically what he was doing was creating shots that he was going to have to play on the golf course, that he knew.
Or was he, you think he was just playing each hole in his mind of how he was going to approach it?
Yeah, I don't know if he was doing that, but he was certainly playing shots that he knew he was going to face. All of a sudden he'd hit a high one, then he'd hit a low one with the same club, where everyone else was trying to hit the same shot, time after time after time. And it wasn't until quite some time after that I kind of sat down and thought about it and thought, he was actually practicing shots that he knew he was going to face on the golf course. I mean, for me, he was the ultimate golfing artist. I mean, if you watch some of the videos, if you go on YouTube, and I really strongly suggest that everyone does this, everyone listening to your show does this, go onto YouTube, look out for videos of Seve Ballesteros, and you'll see some of his pitch shots, his recovery shots. I mean, Seve was never the straightest. He hit it all over the place, but he hit it in the right place when he was hitting in the wrong place, if you like. He knew where to miss. You know, he gained a kind of unfair name when he won the Open at Lytham, when he was called the car park champion, because he hit it in the car park a couple of times. Well, what was being used as a car park, you know, another part of the golf course, whatever. But he knew he could get a free drop. He knew he had a good line in to the flag from there. And he knew that, you know, just by thinking his way around the golf course, he could beat his opponents, most of them, because they weren't thinking about how to get around the golf course. They were thinking about how to make a nice full turn and make sure their shoulders turn 90 degrees, and you got the club parallel to the top, and club face nice and neutral, all these kind of things. But Seve, I mean, it's only when Seve kind of went down the technical route that his game started to really suffer, and he suffered badly, which was tragic and heartbreaking to watch. But yeah, I mean, we spoke to Billy Foster, who caddied for Seve for a while, and we asked him about Seve's artistry, and he said, well, that's exactly what he was. He was an artist. You know, there's some of the things he did with a golf ball. He said, you know, it must have been like watching Picasso paint, watching Seve create all these different shots. But he grew up with when he was a kid, he only had one club, and that was a 3-iron. And he could play flop shots out of bunkers, he could play chip and runs, you could hit high shots, low shots, you could fade them, you could draw them. He could do absolutely everything with it. So for me, he was the ultimate golfing artist. And, you know, to watch him was an absolute joy and a pleasure. So, yeah, I suggest to everyone listening to this, head to YouTube. Don't watch all the swing instruction stuff. Just watch Seve playing golf, because that's where you're really going to learn how to get the job done. And you could see he was having a whole lot of fun doing that. No question.
Yeah. I'm not going to ask you to name names or talk about any method specifically.
Sure.
But do you think, based on what you've written and what you've talked about, that current day instruction impedes artistry? And that's a yes/no question, which is not the way I should be asking.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it does. I think it certainly doesn't encourage it. It doesn't encourage or it doesn't allow it really. But I don't think it's just the instruction. I think that the modern technology is also kind of pushing us away from creativity on the golf course as well, because the golf ball doesn't. So? Well, the golf ball doesn't spin as much as it used to. So
thank
in order
goodness. For me, it's thank goodness.
Well, yeah, I can see that. But if you think about the top players, that the world's best players, big-headed drivers, low-spinning golf balls, they're making the game pretty easy for these guys. It's making the game pretty easy for these guys. So when the ball
for the pros, for the tour pros,
yeah.
But that's not the industry. That's not where it's like, great, they make a lot of money on TV advertising to be able to showcase that stuff. But what about the 99.995% of the players out there who are looking for something to make the game a little
But what do they want to do? They want to play like the pros. So is the golf ball that the tour pros using the best one for the majority of amateur golfers? Absolutely not. But is it the one they buy? Is it the one they want? Absolutely yes. Yeah. Because they want to use the same clubs as the tour pros. They want to use the same balls as the tour pros.
But they don't want to practice like the tour pros.
Of course not. No,
they just want to watch what they did on TV and go, "Oh yeah, I want to go do that."
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah, I want to become a better golfer by osmosis, by watching, observing. That's going to make me better. If I stand close enough to him, that'll transfer. It'll become infectious. Some of that skill will jump into my veins and allow me to be a great golfer. Right. Yeah, I do think that a lot of swing technicians and swing instructors are very much about positioning the club here, being biomechanically efficient, all these kind of things, which are important, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's no place for that at all. What I am saying is that it has to have some context. It has to be connected to the golf shot, which we don't really hear an awful lot being talked about, or enough. Again, go back to textbooks, magazines, YouTube videos. They're all pretty much about what you, the golfer, needs to do, what you, the person, needs to do, what you need to do with your golf club. But very little is actually talked about the golf shot, which is dangerous, really. Because I've seen lots of guys who've got great swings, really nice-looking golf swings, but they can't play. They cannot get the ball around the golf course. And yet there's the other guy who's got the half set, and he's got, battered old driver and irons that have been in his bag for 15 years and a putter that's been there for 30 years, and he can play. Never ever play anyone for money who's got an old battered putter that they've had in their bag for 30 years, because it's a reason it stayed in the bag for 30 years.
It's a great tip.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an excellent tip.
Yeah. You can learn a lot just by looking in someone's golf bag, let me tell you. So yeah, I do think it hinders, and to answer your question, trying to take the long way around here, but yeah, to go back to your question, it certainly doesn't encourage, a lot of techniques don't encourage creativity or artistry.
Awesome. Well, again, the name of the book is The Lost Art of Playing Golf by Gary Nicol and Karl Morris. And we're going to get Karl on soon, too. We got to hear his part of it, because you guys come from it in different ways. But
yeah,
the fact
absolutely.
that you've been able to work this together and made some beautiful stuff. And really, this is the kind of book that attracts me, because it's why I started this podcast. It's okay. For me, it was not, I don't want to talk about swing mechanics all the time. I want to talk about playing golf. I don't want to talk about golf. I want to talk about golfers.
Yes.
Right. And so that's always been my motivation. So a book like this just jumps off the shelf at me, and I appreciate you guys reaching out again.
Not at all. Our pleasure.
It's available now.
It is,
right?
It is in hardback and on Kindle.
Find it wherever you buy your books, whether it's a bookstore or online, but make sure you look for it. The Lost Art of Playing Golf, which is the second book after
The Lost Art of Putting.
The Lost Art of Putting. Gary, it's great to talk to you again, and I look forward to more conversations. Best of luck with the book.
Thank you, Fred. It's been an absolute pleasure again. Thank you.
Hey, if you didn't get to hear episodes 707, 708, and 709, featuring Danny and David Lee of Gravity Golf, I want you to make sure that you don't miss them. That way, you'll get as excited as I am about taking advantage of the incredibly generous opportunity they're providing for you. Gravity Golf is providing an all-access pass to their Gravity Golf Challenge, which includes all 3 stages of the challenge that feature 48 progressive lessons. This package is usually sold for $500, but this is your chance to get it for free. Deadline to enter is Sunday, December 1, 2019, midnight Pacific Time, 3 a.m. Eastern. To enter, please go to golfsmarter.com and click on the giveaway banner at the top of the homepage, and good luck. I hope you win. This week on Golf Smarter Mulligans, brought to you by twoguyswithgolfballs.com and autoslash.com, is part 2 of my conversation with Andrew Martinez, Hall of Fame PGA Tour caddy who worked with both Johnny Miller and Tom Lehman. His credentials are incredible, but his observations of golfers on the driving range, where we recorded this, are amazing. So get your free subscription for Golf Smarter Mulligans and Golf Smarter wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Once you subscribe for free, then those shows will show up on your phone without you even knowing it. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please click on the Hey Fred button at golfsmarter.com.